It's always humbling when someone gives you such a glowing introduction and then has to lower the microphone about 3 feet. Can everyone hear me okay? My name is David Strom, and I'm very, very pleased to be here. My wife and I had a 2-hour drive to come down here, and there's one simple reason why we did that, and that is that I'm very passionate about this issue. And I am for a number of reasons, but probably there are 2 truly compelling ones. One is going to be discussed in the next presentation, which has to do with the questionability of the science behind global warming and the tactics that have been used by the proponents of the theory of global warming and what they're trying to accomplish. And another has to do with the third presentation that's coming up, which is the economics of global warming and what it will do if we follow the policy prescriptions that are being laid out by our political masters right now. It will have a devastating impact on the American economy. And there are a few ways that I can describe this to you. We're going to, Larry, you didn't put your name up. I think the simplest way to sort of get a little bit of background is to look at what has happened in other parts of the world. And I just want to get a few points, pretty simple points, out to you. In fact, I'm going to lay out 6 for you, and I'm going to try to make it as simple and easy to understand. But the United States obviously is not the only place in the world where this is a live topic. Obviously, going back to, 20 years ago, the Kyoto Protocol was proposed and signed by most countries in the world. And thank God the United States, well, we signed it, but we did not actually ratify it in the U.S. Senate. But it was signed and ratified in Europe. And interestingly enough, Europe has actually achieved its Kyoto Protocol targets, but I'll tell you why. It has nothing to do with what they've done to reduce carbon dioxide emissions. I do want to go through just sort of the experience that's out there. 6 points that I want to get across to you. Here are the first 3. Cap and trade, which is of course what we're all hearing about as the solution being put forth by the administration right now, is simply not a serious proposal. Let's assume for the moment that we all agree that global warming is rushing headlong towards us. We have to reduce carbon dioxide emissions, and we've got to do something right here, right now. I'm going to show you that the cap and trade schemes that are out there would not actually achieve the goals that they have laid out for cap and trade. As I said, cap and trade cannot achieve the carbon reduction goals. It will, however, harm the economy. Cap and trade, and this is not my assumption, this is actually due to European Union studies, will lead to industries leaving Europe. And the same thing would happen here in the United States. Very important point, and I want to really emphasize this to you. If all those things that I just laid out for you are true, what is it about cap and trade that's so attractive? And I think it's this next point here that I lay out. Carbon trading is a political spoil system. It's a way to pick winners and losers within an economy. And the last point I want you to get is Europe has actually shown us a surefire way to reduce CO2, and I'll show you it's not one that you're going to want to follow. All right, point 1. The goal set by political leaders in Europe and by President Obama is to reduce carbon dioxide emissions by 80% in 2050. So in 40 years, we're going to reduce carbon dioxide emissions here and around the world by 80%. That's their goal. To put that in perspective, that would get us to per capita carbon dioxide emissions that we last saw sometime around 1900. All right, think about that for a second. The goal that they have for per capita carbon dioxide emissions, that means the amount of carbon dioxide that will be allowed to be emitted per person in the United States, will be at the same level that it was for around 1900. And just imagine, remember what the economy, well, none of us remembers except perhaps you, what the economy was like back then. But pretty much very few cars, very little industry, wildly different economy than what we have today. Now, the carbon dioxide, the carbon trading scheme that they have proposed in Europe will cover a limited number of sources of carbon dioxide. I mean, if you think about the sources of carbon dioxide out there, you've got the ones that you normally think about, which would be power plants, various point sources out there when they make concrete, all of these various industries out there. There are about 10,000 of them that the carbon dioxide trading scheme will cover. That covers 40% of all the carbon dioxide emitted in Europe. So the cap and trade system that they're putting up in Europe is supposed to eliminate 80% of the carbon dioxide. But the carbon trading scheme that they put together only covers 40%. So if you took all the power plants offline, all the industry offline, you only get halfway to your goal. Which is why I say it's pretty obvious when the politicians go out there and say, here's the mechanism that we're going to use in order to achieve this lofty goal. It's not commensurate with the goal. The means and the ends don't go together. So